Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is gonna be my February wrap-up. Let's go right into the stats. It was a really good reading month for me. I read 19 books in total. Of the 19 books that I read, 4 were 5 stars, 1 was a 4.5 star, 8 of them were a 4 star, 3 were a 3.5 star, 2 were a 3 star, and 1 sadly was a 2 star. Now, going back to my January wrap-up, where my lowest rating was a 3 star and both of them were YA, my only YA that I was reading that month, and my one 5 star was a middle grade, I made the assumption that that was maybe a sign that my reading taste have changed, that I now wouldn't like YA as much and maybe middle grade and adult was more my style right now, but I was wrong. I mean, yes, my 2 star this month is a YA, but the 2 3 stars that I had were adult. And my best books of the month were 2 adult books and 2 YA books. It's all up in the air at this point. The 2 star was mainly because of the genre it was in, but I will get back to that when I talk about that book. So all in all, I read 13 adult books, 5 YA books, and only 1 middle grade again. Let's go right into the books, because reviewing 19 books, that's gonna take a lot of time and I don't want this video to be too long. I will try to keep it short with every review. The first book that I finished in February was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. This I already talked about a bit in my January wrap-up because I started in January and I loved this book. I was a bit worried going in because it does sound like a dark romance, but it actually isn't. The romance in this book is very sweet, very cute, and I just want more of it. But the setting is very dark and very gruesome, and you should definitely with this one look at the spoiler warnings because they are accurate. The way I would describe this book is the cutest, sweetest romance meets a very gruesome thriller, because the 2 main characters that fall in love in this book are both serial killers, but they only kill other serial killers. So they meet when they are both targeting the same evil person, and they kind of make a game out of it after that to meet up once a year to go after the same person and see who can get to that person first. It is very gruesome. There are some scenes that are very much something that I kind of want to forget about, but all in all I had a very good time and I'm really happy that there are going to be more books in the series and I can't wait to get to them. And I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book was another arc that I had for a very long time. So this is Unfamiliar Volume 2 by Hayley Newsome. This is a graphic novel about friendship, about witchcraft, about finding yourself, finding a place where you belong in the world, and it's just very cute. This is YA, I believe, even though I think this could resonate with a lot of readers. The art style in this is very cute. I really enjoyed this one and I gave it 4 stars. The next book on my list that I read was Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson. This is the sequel to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, which I loved. I just love the way that it's written. Benjamin Stevenson plays with the reader's knowledge of how a mystery is set up, what kind of tropes are used in these kind of novels, and he just plays with them and he breaks the 4th wall. He talks to the reader, and I love that in the first book. It is the same kind of writing style in this one, so if you liked that kind of reading experience, definitely check this one out. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this and I got it right when it was released. This follows the same protagonist as the first book, and this time around he is trying to become a better writer and he is invited to a book event that is supposed to take place on a train, and there are other mystery and thriller writers as well as guests who attend this festival. He and his girlfriend go on this train ride and are very surprised when the first body drops. So there seems to be no way off this train, and everyone who is on the train is a suspect because of course they all are either fans of mystery novels or are writers of them, so all of them kind of know how to get away with murder. I really enjoyed this one as well. You should definitely read the first book in the series before reading this one because it does have a lot of throwbacks to the first novel, and for me personally it does remind us of the last novel a bit too much, and also the writing style is the same, which I liked, but that way I also kind of got a feeling on how this author uses certain stylistic choices in order to maybe give us a red herring, or is trying to hide like little facts and hints at who might have done it. I really enjoyed this book nonetheless, but it didn't reach like the level of enjoyment that I had with the first one. So I gave this one 4 stars. The next book that I read was Starbringer by Tracy Wolff. I have never read anything by this author before, but I've heard of her, so I was kind of intrigued to go into this because it did sound like my cup of tea. There was the reference to Firefly, which I'm all here for.
Yes, please.
This follows a bunch of characters who are thrown together after an assassination attempt on a spaceship. They all make it to an escape pod and escape together, and thus are on this new journey and are trying to figure out who wanted to kill all of them. There are very different kind of characters on board. There is a priestess, there is a princess, there is a guard, there's a warrior, there is an escaped convict. So all of them kind of have different agendas going into the story, and they are all very suspicious of one another. So I really loved that part. There are different love stories and I really enjoyed those as well. This is very much character driven. There is plot and a lot of things are happening, but we do focus mainly on the romantic entanglements of the crew members. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to see where the next installment of the series goes, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. The next book that I want to talk about is sadly my 2-star, and this was How to Survive Your Murder by Danielle Valentine. This was an arc as well. I got it last year. I never got around to reading it, and I thought it would finally be the time to enjoy this. Sadly, this was not for me. Cannot recommend reading this. So this is a slasher horror, and maybe because I'm not like a slasher girly, I didn't really enjoy that part of it. So if you're going into this expecting like a slasher movie as a book, maybe you would enjoy it a bit more than me. The story is that last year the sister of the protagonist got killed during like a haunted maze kind of situation, and now 1 year later is the trial for the young man accused of murdering her. But when the protagonist gets to the trial, she hits her head and she finds herself back in time 1 year ago when the murder happened. And of course she's trying to save her sister, stop whoever is doing the killing, and finding out that maybe not all is as it seems. I really liked the premise. I just did not like the execution. I feel like this felt like very lazy writing. I think most of the plot was very convenient. Also, the protagonist kept making stupid decisions, and of course that's what happens in a slasher, but the author keeps telling us that this main character is obsessed with slasher and horror movies. She keeps telling us
if I would see this in a movie, I would scream at the main character. I would tell the girl to run away. I would tell her not to do that.
And then she does it herself. And I'm not sure if this many references to the horror genre are meant as like a nod to the genre, or if it's just a lazy way of the author to be like,
she's making stupid decisions. But I knew that she was making stupid decisions, and I knew that there would be a better way to do this, but I just decided not to.
Yeah, I just didn't like it. I really did not enjoy this. I was very close to DNFing, but with these kind of stories you want to know how it all turns out, not only because of the murder aspect. Going back in time, I wanted to see how it was resolved in the end. I hated the ending, so that didn't even save anything. So 2 stars. It might have even been like a 1-star feeling at some point. Really did not enjoy this one. Next up we have a reread that I did in February, and that is the last book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is The Return of the King. I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars. I am so glad that I did this reread of the series. I enjoyed it so much. I love the audiobook, so if you do like audiobooks, go check them out. They're amazing. Unlike the second book where I didn't really enjoy that they made one part the rest of the Fellowship and one part Frodo and Sam, I really enjoyed it in this part. If you don't know, The Lord of the Rings is an epic fantasy story that starts when a small hobbit finds a magic ring that is actually the power source of a evil being that has been defeated in the past but is trying to get his power back and take over the world again. And in this third installment, this is a bind-up of all three, but in this third installment, I really enjoyed that we follow the rest of the Fellowship before even knowing what happened to Sam and Frodo, because the way that the second book ends leaves it very much open. We know that from the ending of book 2 that there was like a big oh my god moment, like what is happening to Frodo and Sam? They're in so much trouble, what's happening? We want to know. And then we have like half of the third book following the other characters, having them make decisions based on the fact that they hope that Frodo reaches the Mount Doom and is destroying the ring without knowing if he makes it. And in the movie we switch between the POVs, so we as an audience know where Frodo and Sam are at which point and if they are succeeding or not. In this we don't know, so it is very much us hoping alongside with the characters, and I really enjoyed that part. And there is so much more happening at the end of the book than in the movies, so if you think you know the whole story because you watched the movies, you do not. Go back to this book and read it. I'm so glad that I finally, after I think 2 decades, reread this. Next up we have The Swifts by Beth Lincoln. I read the German translation of this, which is also maybe why I only rated it 3.5. I have heard other people loving this, so maybe take this with a grain of salt. This is a middle grade series about a very unique family. In this family, whenever a baby is born, it gets its name from a dictionary. So they just pick a name randomly and they believe that the name actually is equal to the character of that child. So we have very weird names in this book, which sometimes hindered my enjoyment of reading this because they are normal words, and if you just listen to the audiobook, for example, then it just sometimes doesn't make sense. Then you have to remember, oh right, that was the name of one of the characters. So that was a kind of weird choice. It did end up being a theme of the whole book because the main character is not happy with her name. She thinks that it just means she's gonna be mischievous and maybe not trustworthy in all aspects, and that it would mean her path in life is chosen already by birth and she can't really choose her own way of life. I did enjoy this aspect of the story. There are also other aspects like diverse characters, very important messages in those plot lines. The main plot is that there's a family gathering and it brings a lot of chaos, and also there's a murder attempt happening, and the main character and her siblings are trying to figure out who done it and stop whoever is trying to murder people in the family. I did enjoy the murder mystery aspect of it. It was kind of brutal in some ways because there are bodies dropping left and right at some point, and it's a middle grade, so I'm kind of like that's weird. But I did enjoy it and I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up we have a new favorite of mine, and that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I actually read this digitally and I had to go out and buy a physical copy right away because I knew I was going to be obsessed with this series. I really enjoyed this. This was originally self-published, but it got picked up by Tor, and I'm really happy that they did because otherwise I would probably never have read this. Really happy that I did though. This is set in a world that is ruled by vampires, or creatures that are very loosely based on vampires. They have wings. They don't turn into bats or anything, but they themselves have wings. Some of them are more bat-like wings, some have bird-like wings with feathers. I don't know why I'm doing this, like but they do drink blood and they are very much lethal to humans who are second-class citizens or more servants and prey in this world. The main character herself is human, but she was adopted by the king of the vampires when she was very little. She doesn't remember anything from before. She was just a baby, and she has survived so far so good in this world, but she does know that if she wants to survive in the future, she needs more power. There is a tournament that's coming up that if she would win it, she could win a wish from the goddess of death herself. She enters this tournament knowing that she probably doesn't have a real chance of winning because everyone else is a vampire. She has to go and make alliances and form kind of friendships, even though she knows in the end only one person can win. I love this. I had a feeling like when I first read Fourth Wing, I couldn't put it down. I loved the love story in this one. It's not as spicy as Fourth Wing, which I liked. I don't need spice. I like the slow burn. I like that it's not as obvious as in Fourth Wing. The slow burn is shown through little gestures and little things that they say and do, and oh, that's just so my kind of love story. So I can't wait to continue with this one, and I would highly recommend. I gave this 5 stars, of course, and this will be on my best books of the year list for sure. Next up, we have a book that really surprised me again with how much I loved it, and that is Check It Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I read this for the young adult, new adult event that we did in our bookstore, and this was so good. I did not know, 1, that I could love an Ali Hazelwood book so much, and 2, that chess can be very exciting. Who knew? This reminded me a lot of The Queen's Gambit, the series. I really enjoyed that as well. And we follow a young woman who has just finished school and has decided not to go to college in order to stay home and look after her sisters. Her dad died a year ago and her mother is chronically ill, so she has to take on the responsibility of the adult in the household. And she used to be a prodigy when it comes to all things chess, but 4 years ago something happened and she decided to step away from the game and have nothing to do with it. Now though, her friend asked her to participate in a tournament for charity, and she ends up playing against the current world champion. She whips his ass, she is so good, and she wins the game, but is kind of overwhelmed by it and flees. And after that, she is given the chance to return to the game and do this professionally. Because of something that happened in the past, she has very conflicting feelings about going back, and of course towards the current champion who is trying to get to know her more. And this was so cute. I really enjoyed the love story again in this one. This was done so well. It is YA, but it definitely is sex positive. It is Fade to Black, which I don't mind at all. I think everybody is kind of interested in researching more about chess after reading this. It's amazing, really good. I enjoyed this very much, and I gave it 5 stars. Next up, we have God Killer by Hannah Kenna. This is a very beautiful edition that I got from Illumicrate. It has a beautiful full color under the dust jacket. I really enjoyed this. This is about a world that has a lot of gods. If you can wish for something and you make enough sacrifice to this wish, then you kind of wish a certain god to existence, if that makes sense. So there are a lot of gods. They are not tame, they do as they wish, and the more people that believe in them, the stronger they get. So we have certain gods who are almost all powerful. In order to stop them, the young king makes the decision to ban all religions and all gods, and so they fight the gods and kill most of them, and a couple of years later there are only a few of them left. There are certain people who go after these last gods and they're called God Killer, and the main character in this is such a God Killer. She wants revenge because one of the gods killed her whole family when she was young, so she is very much in the business of killing gods. Usually the gods are bound by temples, so by certain locations, but then Kissen, the main character, stumbles upon a child who has connection with a god. Very cute god, and do I have it? Yeah, it's this one. This is very cute, but it has its own agenda, and when she meets these two and she knows if she kills the god, she kills the kid as well. They go on a journey to a certain city where there are still gods roaming around in search of a god that can maybe help them with this debacle. Other people are also trying to reach the city. There is a very slow burn, almost non-existent love story happening. I think in the second book there will be more of that, but I do enjoy just the found family aspect of this. I enjoy the different characters and their agendas, and that they don't know if they can trust each other. It is very well done. This felt a bit like reading T. Kingfisher, like Nettle and Bone. If that's your kind of thing, then maybe check this one out, and vice versa. If you've read this, loved this, then go check out T. Kingfisher. I feel like they have a very certain way of making these very elaborate, very atmospheric worlds that we just love to fall into, with plots that are very entertaining without being too epic or too big to grasp. So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the twists, and I could highly recommend you this read. Gave it 4 stars. Next up, we have another 4-star, and I'm sorry, this is only for those of you that read German books, because this is a German author. It is Today I'll Talk to Him by Bianca Wege. This is such a cute cover. It has such cute stenciled edges. I could not walk away from this when I saw it in the bookstore, so I got it. I didn't even need to know what it's about. Thankfully, it's a cute story that I really enjoyed. It really felt like a rom-com. This is about a young girl who just started college. She made the decision to move away from home, where she felt like she wouldn't step out of her comfort zone if she would just stay there to go to college. She also wanted to get a little bit distance to her high school crush. As it turns out, he goes to the same college, which she didn't know, and they meet when she is forced to take extracurricular activity, and the only thing that was left is being a mascot for the volleyball team that he is on. This girl is an introvert. She does not like to talk to people. She does not like to be in the center of attention. She just wants to be at home and play The Sims and do a stream about it, and she has a lot of followers, and she just wants to stay at home. So being a mascot is of course something that is horrible for her, and I was afraid that it would go into secondhand embarrassment, but it actually wasn't. It was really nicely done, and she decides, or her followers, they make up challenges for her when she meets her crush, what she's supposed to do with him based on Sims. So like give a hug or flirt or tickle. Thankfully tickle came. I don't think it came at any point. She kind of has to do those things in order to open up and maybe get to know her crush a bit more. Really enjoyed this, gave it 4 stars, and I am very happy that the next book in this series is coming out, I think next year, maybe this year even. Really happy for this. Next up, we have Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. I love this cover. I knew right away that I needed to get it and read it right away, and I did, and I gave it 3.5 star. In this story, there is a country that is cut off from the rest of the continent by a border. Everything that is dangerous and that could potentially harm this country is on the other side of the border, and they're trying to keep it out, and the rest of the country is divided in 12 sectors. All of these provinces have a ruler who is looking after this province, and all of these rulers have a magical ability in order to help secure their province, and all of them have heirs that are supposed to take over once the last heir receives their power. When that happens, all 12 of the heirs go on a voyage to a temple. They take over the ruling of their own province, and their parents basically retire. They are all supposed to have powers, but as it turns out, the main character that we follow, who is the heir to the lowest province, does not have powers. He and his family lied about it and told everyone that he does have powers, and nobody knows the secret. He just wants to get through this voyage, and after that live a very low-key life in order to not get anyone suspicious about him not having any powers. But once the voyage is on its way, someone dies, and it could have only been one of the other heirs. I really enjoyed everything that happens on this ship. Sadly, the whole plot is just what happens on this ship. I would have liked to have a bit more world building. I would have liked to see more scenes or more plot that is happening in these provinces, or that would show me a bit more of how everyone is living in this country. We just follow the plot, the murder mystery on this ship, which is done well. It is very funny. I liked the main character's voice. I loved the banter. I loved the different characters. There were some aspects that were revealed later on, like plot twists, that I wasn't really the most happy about. But yeah, all in all, it was a fun read if you go in just knowing this is probably just like a murder mystery with fantasy aspects, that's fine. Go in, have fun, and enjoy this beautiful book. Next up we have my other reread, which is the second graphic novel that I read this month, and that is The Croaking by Megan Gray, Volume 1 at First Flight. This is such a beautiful graphic novel. If you don't know it yet, please go check it out. I really enjoy the art style, and the story is just so cute. In this world, all the people are based on birds, so they all have wings according to the type of bird that they represent. So we have like falcons, we have eagles, we have crows, and crows are basically the lowest caste of them. Everyone is suspicious of them. They're supposed to be in gangs because of a murder of crow, and the bigger birds are basically the higher ranking elite of this world. And we have an academy that is basically like a military academy that takes only the best of the young cadets. And it is the first time that a crow is actually coming to the school. Of course, there are a lot of suspicions, and he has his own reasons to be there. There's a lot of secrets. I came for this brooding character, but I stayed and love it because of this cutie. He is such a cinnamon roll. I love their relationship. It is queer, it is very slow burn, and it's just so cute. So go check it out. If you don't want to get this physical copy right away, trust me, you do, but if you're not sure, I read this first on Webtoon and I think it's still on there, so go ahead, read it, love it, come back and get the physical copy because it's great. I gave it 5 stars again. Next up we have The Immortality Thief by Taran Hunt. This is a science fiction adventure story that takes place in an abandoned spaceship. We follow our main character after he is caught doing something he shouldn't do, and he just waits to get his sentence. But then he is given the choice to not go to prison and instead go look for this abandoned ship that they have found. It is supposed to hold very crucial information that they need, but they are very wary why it's been abandoned for so long. So they're very okay with just sending someone who they are thinking of as expendable to look for it and bring back this information. Time is ticking because this ship is near a star that is about to implode. So there is this time-sensitive aspect to the story that makes it very tense and very adventurous. When they get to this spaceship, there is more to this whole thing than they expected. In this universe, some time ago, there was an alien race that took over the whole solar system and is basically the big enemy that they are trying to get rid of. And now they find out that this enemy knew about this ship and is also coming and is trying to get to this sensitive information. So we have these different groups of people trying to get the same information. Nobody can be trusted, and it is very much action-packed. It's funny because I have the same critique with this as I had with The Voyage of the Dam, which is that I would have liked to know more about everything else that's going on outside of this ship. We do learn a bit, and we have characters that talk about and share more of what's going on in the solar system, but the main plot is based on being on the ship. It's a very long book, so there are so many fight scenes and so many scenes where they get chased, and at some point this all just got a bit repetitive. But what I did like was the way that the character development happened, and I really loved the ending. I have my hopes for a certain relationship for the next book in the series, so I can't wait to get to that. I don't know when that will be released, but I am gonna be there when it does. Funnily enough, I think I said in my January wrap-up that I might not get to this in February, and I did, but only because before I read Starbringer. That just got me back into the mood to read more sci-fi, so I'm really happy that I did. Those were just 2 great science fiction reads. I had a great time with it and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I listened to the audiobook of Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I think it's called. I gave this one 3 stars, and I know some of you are gonna be like, what? How could you? I'm sorry. I I just noticed that this kind of writing style isn't for me. These books are written in journal entries, and I just don't like it. It just takes away some of the suspense, because I know at a certain point she is still alive to write them. These kinds of stories are just not for me. I also wasn't really enthralled with the story as such. We follow Emily, but Emily is going on a journey and is trying to find a certain way to fairyland, and on the way she meets different kind of fairy tale-esque creatures, and this time around we're in Austria. For me, one, I live in Germany, so I know some of the fairy tales that they are reminiscent of. I would say if you like The Bear and the Nightingale, you might also like these stories. I enjoyed it enough to listen to it. I wasn't really gripped by it. I never once thought, oh, I need to get a physical copy for this because I love it so much. Sadly. Next up we have A Step Past Darkness by Vera Kurian. I really enjoyed another book by this author, Never Saw Me Coming, which is a thriller about a group of psychopaths. I really loved that one, gave it 4.5 stars, so go check it out if you don't know it yet. This time around I was really happy to receive an ARC for her newest novel. It has a very different kind of vibe and situation going on. We follow 6 classmates that have not been in contact since leaving high school. It has been 20 years, all of them have lived their lives, and now one of them has returned to their little hometown and has been killed. So the other 5 are returning home, and they are all trying to figure out something that happened 20 years ago. I wouldn't say that this is particularly just a thriller. It is very creepy at times. The author has a great way of making you look over your shoulder with both of her novels, but with this one it is a bit of a genre blend, so don't go into it just expecting a typical thriller. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I myself did not know that this was a genre blend, so I was kind of surprised the way it turned out, but it was done very well. So if you don't mind a genre blend, then go ahead, and if you like a cult in your books, in your thriller books, go ahead. It has one of those as well, and it's just creepy to see the influence that some of these cult leaders have on people. Ugh, yeah, it was good. It was really good, and I'm very much looking forward to the next novel of this author. The next book that I want to talk about is The Scarlet Alchemist by Kylie Lee Baker. This is a new favorite of mine. I give it 5 stars. I've had the ARC since last year. Why didn't I get to this sooner? But it's only been a couple of months, so it's okay. But I'm so glad that I got to this one in February. I read this for the 72 hours in the Reading Nook readathon. I'm gonna link my vlog up above so you can go check it out and see me read this and gush about it for a bit. This is so good. It's a new favorite of mine. This is a retelling of Chinese history, when at some point in history alchemists have found what they were looking for, immortality. Alchemists have the ability to not only turn things into gold, but to make gold that, if ingested, brings immortality. So the rich, of course, can live forever, and the poor kind of have to survive in this new reality. Some alchemists can also raise the dead with their powers, and our main character is one of those alchemists. This kind of alchemy is forbidden, and she has to keep it a secret, but ever since she was little, she wanted to become a royal alchemist. In order to make her dream come true, she has to take part in a test that would bring her to the capital in order to become one of the best alchemists in the country, and in the end become the royal alchemist. I love the main character in this. She was written so uniquely in a way that she knows exactly where her place in this society is. She is half Chinese, half Norwegian, or like whatever Norwegian was in that time. So she knows she doesn't fit in. She is an orphan. She was taken in by the family of her cousins, which feels like her own family, so there is no animosity in the family, but she wants to help make ends meet. She wants to make money, so become a royal alchemist. At the same time, she knows that women are not seen as equals to men in this society, and she is half Chinese, so there's a lot of commentary in this aspect as well. It's done so well. She knows her role, but she is not happy to just fulfill the role that everybody else wants her to be. She knows her worth as an alchemist who can raise the dead, and I just loved following her journey from the slums into the palace and whatever happens after that. There were so many plot twists. I did not see some of them coming. This was really amazing and one of my new favorites, and I can't wait to get a physical copy and to reread this. The next book I want to talk about is Notes on an Execution by Dania Kukawka. This is an adult thriller-esque story. I would actually say it's more literary fiction with a thriller aspect, because the main character that we follow is a convicted serial killer, and we see his point of view, but also the point of views of some of the women that have entered his life and had something to do with him. And I had other expectations from this. Maybe that's why I only gave it 3 stars, because I did think we would get more into the psyche of him as a serial killer. What is interesting is that we get his point of view in second person, so he keeps saying,
you wait for the priest to come, you wait and you walk around.
So it's kind of like you yourself are the prisoner, you yourself are the convicted killer, but at the same time it didn't really do anything for me. It didn't make me feel uncomfortable or anything. What made me feel uncomfortable was the first woman that we follow, which was his mother, and the way that he was raised, and it just broke my heart, which is something that is supposed to happen, I guess, because we are supposed to kind of understand where he's coming from, but it was really hard to read. And like I said, we follow other people in his life, other women that he came in contact with. That way we kind of see how it all transpired and how it all came to be, and in between we kind of have a countdown to his execution, and we are kind of like on the edge of our seat to know if in the end something will change or if he will be executed, if he gives us an explanation to why he did what he did. I only gave it 3 stars. I did still enjoy it, but it's not a new favorite of mine by any means. Last but not least, I read Assistant to the Villain. If you want to know more of my thoughts, I do also read this during the 72-hour in the Reading Nook. I enjoyed this one. I had no expectations for this because there are people who love this book and there are people who hate this book. I fall somewhere in the middle. I gave it 3.5 stars, but I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed the audiobook as well. This follows a young woman who just lost her job and she's looking for new work and literally stumbles upon a villain, the villain that is notorious where she lives. So she knows he's the bad guy, but ends up working for him anyway. We skip ahead 5 months and the main story is happening when there are assassination attempts on their lives, but mostly this is about her feelings towards the villain, which sometimes didn't really make sense to me. I would have liked to see these 5 months and see her develop her feelings and not just be like,
he's a hot dude, so it's okay for him to torture people. I can hear him torture people and I kind of think torture is now hot because I like him.
She's supposed to be this very innocent and beautiful person. She's supposed to be the sunshine to his grump, and it didn't really make sense some of the time. I did like their banter. I really enjoyed the villain as a character, but yeah, more to my feelings towards it in my vlog. Like I said, I was really pleasantly surprised by this, and I think I will continue with this series. So those are the 19 books that I read in February. I also started a few and DNF'd one. I will put a picture up of those books. There were a couple that I do want to get back to ASAP and a couple that I am still interested in but not sure if I will gravitate towards them in the next couple of weeks or months. And then there is one that I just wasn't feeling in the first couple of pages, so I just DNF'd it right away. I would love to know down in the comments what was your favorite book of February and how is your March reading going. If you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe if you want to. I would love to see you in the next video, and until then I hope you have all the great reads. Bye!